Everyone's hyping up the Nintendo Switch now, and for good reason. It has a lot of good first-party titles like Mario Kart, Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild. Yeah, it's so many great first-party exclusive content on that platform. Those games alone are worth buying the system. And then you have a lot of good third-party support and a very clever gimmick, being able to switch between handheld and home console. It's just the gimmick, along with having good first party and third party support. All those three factors combined are making the Switch a very big success right now. But what if one of those big factors starts to completely fall apart for Nintendo? If that happens, then the Nintendo Switch is going to suffer a massive blow. And of course, I'm talking about third party support. Okay, that's one of the big things that pretty much made the Wii U a commercial failure. Besides that, it also didn't have that much great first-party support. But even when the first-party support first started coming in, with Mario Kart being released, Smash Brothers being released, a few high-profile exclusive games, Bayonetta, it still wasn't enough to save the Wii U. So when people say exclusive matter the most, or when people say third-party support matters the most, they actually both matter, I think, equally to each other. If you don't have any exclusive content like Microsoft, your console is going to fail. If you don't have any third-party support like the Wii U, then your platform is also going to fail. So Nintendo Switch is doing amazing right now. Some people project that the Switch is going to outsell the Wii. That I am a little skeptical about at this moment. I did predict that the Nintendo Switch was going to be a commercial success, at least a lot more commercially successful than the Wii U, and I actually predicted that right. But like the Wii U, the Nintendo Switch had very bad timing. Now, why do I say that? Well, the Wii U obviously had awful timing. It came out a year before the new generation of consoles came out, and people blame the lack of third-party support for the Wii U on its slow CPU, or just Nintendo being primitive and not wanting to do certain things with certain companies. Like, for example, they were trying to do a deal with EA and try to get like Battlefield 3 or whatever on there, but they didn't want to have data log onto their platform and having to log in through EA. So, because Nintendo refused to allow EA Origin access for Nintendo Wii U users, and that's a big part of EA games is having to log in through Origin. You get like bonus shit from it. So EA was like, we're not going to bother putting our games on your platform. But a big reason why the Wii U didn't have third-party support is that by the time it hit the shelves, its technology was old. Yet keep in mind, the Wii U was less powerful, or just as powerful as the Xbox 360 and PS3, which was 7-year-old hardware by the time the Wii U came out. So it was not a new console when it came out. It was old, and you could tell by the graphics. And even compared to the 360 and PS3, the game's underperformed. And that's the case. It's like deja vu right now. Not quite on the same level, because the Switch did a few things better than the Wii U, had a much better gimmick instead of that awful gamepad. You actually have, you're able to switch between handheld and home console. It's such an awesome gimmick, and a lot of kids wanted that, right? So it was a good gimmick. And then they also had good first-party support off the bat, a lot of good launch titles, which the Wii U did not have. But there's also a sense of deja vu. They're making some of the same key mistakes that they did with the Wii U. And one of those big mistakes was bad timing. I understand the Wii U was doing awful, and they needed to make a new console because the Wii U just was not working. But the Switch, its timing was not very good. In 2017, it came out. It came out a little bit over a year ago. 13 months ago, I think, it came out. 4 years after the PS4 and Xbox One came out. And oh yeah, they had the same exact hardware problems that the Wii U had, being one step behind its competition. And people say, well, the Nintendo Switch isn't competing with the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It's a whole different market. That's a common thing that Nintendo fanboys like to say. Except if they weren't competing, then they wouldn't want to have third-party support and have to be able to play the same games that the PS4 and Xbox One does. And here's the issue. The same exact issue that the Wii U's timing had. 1 year before the new generation of consoles came out. So the Wii U is considered an 8th generation console. So what is the Switch? Is it still 8th gen or is it 9th gen? What generation is the Switch in? We don't know because Nintendo always, well, recently at least, have always been a huge step behind their competitors technologically. They started that off with the Wii. Now with the Wii it made sense because the Wii wasn't focusing on being a real gaming machine. It was pretty much a GameCube with motion controls. That's what the Wii was. So it actually made sense at the time for the Wii to be underpowered, although it really hurt Nintendo at the end because the Wii sold so much. They sold, but a lot of Wiis were collecting dust. Then again, you can't take it away from Nintendo because they ended up being the second best-selling home console. So with the Wii, it worked. The Wii U, not so much. The Nintendo Switch, I also think the same thing is going to happen, okay? Because the Nintendo Switch, as we have it right now, never mind the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, we're talking about the base PS4 and the original Xbox One console. As those compared to those consoles, the Nintendo Switch underperforms, or does okay compared to them. And I know the counter to that is going to be so that the handheld gimmick can work. That's a big selling point of the consoles, so you gotta make some sacrifices technologically. But how the Switch performs compared to the PS4 and Xbox One is not my concern. My concern is how it will fare up to the PlayStation 5 and Microsoft's next console, whatever that will be named. Because they are in for something. Because that's when their third-party support is going to die. And those consoles, whether you like it or not, they're right around the corner. And there will be a point where Nintendo's gimmick, being a hybrid between a handheld console and a home console, eventually it will not be enough. Especially since the handheld aspect of it, if you're running a high demanding game, your average battery life is about like 2 hours. So what's really the attraction of the handheld feature at a certain point? I mean, yes, I get, you could still play it outside of your house. If you have a charger with you, you can bring portable chargers, you can do all that stuff. But at the end of the day, the handheld aspect of the Switch is nothing compared to that of, let's say, the 3DS or the DS or the Game Boy. It's just not. So they're compensating by sacrificing powerful hardware in order for their gimmick to work, like they did with the Wii. But at the end of the day, is their gimmick enough to keep them alive for at least 4 more years? Because the Wii U, as abysmal as that console was, it lasted 5 years. So they're at least aiming for the Switch to last 5 years. And I'm not saying the Switch won't last 5 years, or that it will ultimately turn out to be a failure. I'm not saying any of those things whatsoever. It'd be stupid for me to say any of those things. But instead, what I'm alluding to is that the hype that the Switch is getting and the future projections that people have about the Switch may be misguided. Right now, the Switch is the hottest console on the market right now. Yes, it is. But when the PS5 comes out in a year or two, you really think the Switch will still be the hottest console? When you have brand new hardware, brand new technology, I'm sure Sony will offer some kind of gimmick as well. Maybe nothing like the handheld thing, but kind of like the touchpad, so they'll have something unique to it. And they'll have unique features that the Switch just doesn't have. And I'm sure the PS5 will have exclusives too that will kind of overshadow what Nintendo's offering. So when people say that the Switch will become the best-selling console of all time, it will surpass the Wii, it will surpass the PS2, it won't even surpass the PS4. And hey, if I turn out to be wrong, then fine, but I don't think I am in this situation. I think what we'll start to see is as the technological gap between the Switch and other platforms continues to widen, because the Switch was released at not a very good time, then we'll start to see the Switch overall decline in sales, in hype, in everything. And that's what I think we'll see.